Here she is.
Here she is. Come on in.
Okay,
Let's bring back bad memories.
Watch your step there. Watch your step.
what we've
Are
already
you
started.
sick or avoiding sickness?
That was sick, and hopefully not sick anymore.
At least 8 of us probably that agree with you.
Okay, I would like to call to order this meeting of the Board of Library Trustees. Director Edward, could we get a roll call?
Sure, Chair Benamide. And Vice Chair Petty.
Here.
Trustee Joshi.
Here.
Trustee Silvera
Here.
and Trustee Moreau.
Here.
We are all here, and joining from the staff, we have our administrative clerk, Julia Neal, our public services manager, Kim Smith, assistant library director, Melissa Mejia, and myself, library director, Brian Edwards.
Okay, thank you very much. First up, we have a presentation. We're receiving an update on shared library resources.
Yeah, and do you want to do any kind of, this is just to talk about our update on our project that we are working on with, as part of MOBAC, as with Pacific Grove Library, as well as Carmel Library, adding Carmel Library into the mix. Melissa's here and she's been working on one of the key roles in terms of getting Carmel on board, and it's a big part, I think, of push for the Carmel. Carmel is going to be down for a couple days
Yeah,
for their work on their side. So this should not affect us, but
yeah.
I'd like to just turn it over to Melissa.
Yeah.
Just-
I can just talk about what we've been working on. So we've been, so I've been meeting regularly with staff from both Carmel Library and Pacific Grove Library. And these are staff members that are involved more with the circulation kind of side of operations and like managing the collection as far as the process of adding new materials. Because, you know, as we kind of go forward with the merger, we're going to need to really compare our different systems and our different ways of doing things and make sure that we're compatible, because we are going to have to kind of compromise on a few of those procedures. Now, it's not, so far, it's not something that we need to address as far as a change like in policy or anything like that. It's more kind of just, you know, the way that staff are directed to handle a lot of those, you know, patron library card applications and the way that it kind of comes up in the ILS system, which is COHA. So right now we're meeting pretty much every week, every other week if we can't make it to a week. And so it's myself and David, who is our support services, or technologist, sorry.
Technologies
Specialist.
service specialist.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's his official title, our tech guy, basically, who is really good at kind of interpreting the language of everything. And so, you know, that way we can understand it. And then we also have two representatives from Carmel and two representatives from the Pacific Grove Library. And so each week we're kind of going through, you know, step by step, making sure that we're finding common ground. Our next step is we're going to actually be meeting next week with more of the acquisitions team, which that refers to collections specifically. And so Kim will be there for that. And so we're having lunch. All three systems are coming together. So there's a lot of collaboration happening. And it's nice because these are the things that we need to like clear up now, right? We don't want to, you know, do the merger and then later realize, oh, we should have talked about this. We should have done that. And so our goal is to get as many of those wrinkles kind of ironed out so that we can get ready to start training staff and prepare them for what that's going to look like. So the goal right now, our live date is May 6th. So that's the date that the catalog officially will have the three together.
I'm sorry, repeat the date.
May 6th.
May 6th.
Yeah, which is coming up. So, and then the other part of that is also, which Brian mentioned earlier, was that we are, Carmel is going to have to, because they're the ones that are merging with us and PG, their system is going to go, COHA is going to go down for 2 days prior to that. So,
Oh, just theirs.
Yeah, not ours. So that means it's the 4th and the 5th. So the 4th and the 5th, I believe they are going to be either closed. I'm not quite sure what their plans are for that, but they're not going to have access to their ILS, their catalog. So that is gonna be, that they have to do that. It's the only way that they can transfer all of the information over. And so another step to all of this as well is marketing and figuring out like, how are we gonna communicate this? Because right now we haven't really announced it to the public unless of course they're, joining us for these meetings and these ongoing conversations. But so that's something that I'm also working with directly with some of the staff from those systems to be able to kind of be on board together. So we're going to kind of push it out on social media the week before. So you'll start to see some of that coming out. And so that way all of us are sharing the same language around the merger. Again, we want to make sure that we're not confusing people. It is going to still kind of confuse people because of the way it's going to be handled as far as the library cards. Each patrons are going to be, they are each going to have a library card to each system. They're going to be able to use those cards at all three libraries, but they're each you can get a card for each library.
But we won't need a card for each library.
If you want specific digital resources for one library, then yes, you would need that specific
So I
card.
just want to check out a book that's in
Then
PG.
you don't need
today,
it.
I don't need
But
PG card.
You've used the same card, yeah.
Mhm.
current users, if you don't care about other libraries, you just want to, nobody will see any difference. There'll be no difference.
There'll be no difference other than that they'll have more options now
Right.
for materials. So
But
if they wanted.
If all you ever do is take a book out of your own library, nothing will change for you, right?
Yeah, it's just like when you're looking in the catalog, your catalog record will then, we're integrating and that's part of it. It's like standards for how we're putting all of our records. Our records will merge
Except
together.
You could have the privilege of getting stuck in traffic to pick up your book at Carmel instead of here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Find a parking spot.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's definitely some unknowns, like we don't know how, like, it'll be an experiment as far as the amount, like the public, like how many members of Carmel are we gonna see coming this way, going that way, and all that would
A
be,
lot of people
yeah.
from Carmel are gonna pick up books here.
Do you know how many Carmel
'Cause they can't
residents
find-
already have library
uh,
cards from here?
I don't have the number right now, but we can.
We
But
do,
it's probably significant.
it's a good number, but also because we do it by zip code. So you've got like Carmel, you've got Carmel Valley.
Right.
Right, so we have a couple of the different, like Carmel by the Sea and then Carmel, we have a couple, all of those regions over there. And I would say it's a it's a small amount, but it's a significant amount compared to their population size.
Right, right.
Because I feel like
Per
they
capita, I
use
feel
per
like,
capita, yeah, they
Because
use.
this is easy to use and it's bigger.
And
Yeah.
access to parking and,
Parking, yeah.
sometimes in like, whether if you're around here, if you're going somewhere in Monterey, you might want to just go here, right?
Right.
So that's where it's,
So this will be the bigger learning curve for Carmel and Carmel residents,
Mhm.
since this doesn't change that much from what we're already doing with Pacific Grove, right?
right. And I will say the other piece is that because Carmel is in the midst of a large renovation of their Harrison Memorial Branch. $26 million or something around that size. Very large.
Jealous.
Yeah, very large restoration renovation of that historic building. When that goes forward, they'll have the park branch and they'll have some other pop-up branches as well. And I could see an increase potentially at that point when that system goes down for a period of time. But we don't have the full data of that, but we know that the funding has been given by they have a large donor contingent that has given to that project.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's kind of where we're at. I'm sure there's gonna still be things that will pop up that we, didn't realize, but it'll be good. I'm glad that we're definitely communicating very frequently and openly within the three systems, which is important. So it's been a good process and everybody's been super cooperative and excited and yeah. It's gonna be great for the
That's a
peninsula. It's
good
gonna be really great for the peninsula, yeah.
So just a nitty-gritty question.
Yeah.
For one book, there'll be one record with 3 locations?
Yeah,
or
yeah,
something
well,
like
that,
Okay,
yes, there
that's the
should
goal.
be.
That's the way it is now with PG, right? You see both locations.
Mm,
You see both locations in one record, yeah.
Mm.
Yes, that's what we want. So that's part of the conversations is like, how are we ensuring that we're not overwriting each other's records and making sure that so that's a big part of the conversation we're gonna be having next week, actually, which is why for collections and record keeping and stuff like that. So, but yeah, good question.
Librarian.
Yeah, librarian question.
So it's conceivable that, if I look up a book and we don't own it,
Hmm.
I can't check it out because we don't own it. But if now in the future, if Carmel owns it, I'll be able to get it,
It'll pop up.
right?
Yeah.
What if we don't own a book, we're always urged on our website to, make a request to have it purchased, right?
Hmm.
If I do that and it's rejected by the Monterey staff,
Hmm.
then conceivably the Carmel or PG staff could buy it.
Correct. So then that would be, and that would be dependent, and that's also part of our conversations. It'll be dependent on your home library, which is what we refer to in the backside of what we see when we get those requests. Because you're only getting requests for Monterey, right?
Yeah,
Right.
there's
So
a way to, it defaults to your home library and there's a way to toggle it
To
to
share
a
it.
different
Yeah.
library, but only one library gets the request.
And one
Mhm.
other piece about that too is that Carmel does participate in interlibrary loan, which we do not, for people over there. So there's a form in that, and I think that would be something for you guys to talk
Yeah.
about over there too. But the interlibrary loan is an older kind of model of service where you
Yeah,
go through there and they limit the number, but then they go through kind of nationwide and physically mail it from another library for a specific checkout. And they have a smaller audience and there's not a huge number of libraries that are doing what they call traditional ILL anymore, but Carmel is one of the libraries. Monterey County Free Library, they still do traditional ILL as well. So sometimes if we don't have it and they don't buy it, we might.
Yeah, no.
but we'll have access to the interlibrary loan
That's what I think, just to think.
set up that Carmel has once we're merged.
We'll check. I don't actually
check.
know if they have ILL.
They mentioned it at MOBAC.
I'll say they can.
Maybe they're getting rid of it or something.
That's what I was just trying to figure out because
Because I
at the
feel like that would
MOBAC,
have come up already, but I'll follow up.
yeah, that's just something to think of because at MOBAC where it was Monterey County Free Library.
They do,
still-
yeah,
They still do it. But I want to see if they have that ILL, what other kind of,
So people with a Monterey Library card could then get to ILL through Carmel, or you have to have a Carmel card.
sure, we'll check. I think that was just something
That's
for us
kind
to
of the
check it out.
question?
Yeah, because it just was to answer Bob's question about like if something wasn't purchased, that, I think we should check on that.
Or if it's something kind of exotic, like my brother-in-law is into genealogy and family history and all that. And he lives in Boise, Idaho. And I know through, I guess, ILL, he got a book or some kind of reference material mailed to his home from, I don't know, like Philadelphia, somebody way on the eastern end of the country, through his library.
Right.
But
Yeah, and there's a lot, yeah, I'd say like specifically, because I come from a system that uses what's called Link Plus and a lot of California libraries. So Santa Cruz, for example, Santa Cruz is part of MOBAC as well, which is part of our library consortium. Santa Cruz moved to also having Link Plus, which is costly interlibrary. I mean, there's like an annual cost in shipping. So it is, I think it's too costly for us as a system to be in Link Plus, but a lot of systems have gone to Link Plus rather than the ILL system.
And what you're talking about probably is ILL.
I don't know.
Yeah.
All I know is he got
Is that
something he
mostly?
wanted that he didn't have Boise, but they had it
Yeah,
wherever it was.
yeah.
And Boise is a big city, but is that
Yeah.
mostly for rural areas?
It
No,
depends, yeah.
I think it was something Monterey Public Library had years ago too. It's just, you have to have a staff person on board who will communicate, like, right now we do a lot more automation in terms of, things and purchase requests also do get reviewed, but what happens is if you get it's a hold request, you then have to manually contact go through what's called rolled cat, look through other libraries, see who's able to send it to you. So typically a lot of those systems have somebody whose role
We
is,
used to have a full-time person doing that.
Oh, is really? Really?
It's pretty
Okay.
intense.
so it's because it's very
You
much.
don't want 4 copies of it coming in because it's.
Right, so you have to do the communication, then pay for the shipping, pay for each item, and so then there's that cost involved with each piece of it. And that's where,
The cardholder doesn't pay any of that.
depends on the system.
Yeah,
Okay.
sometimes they do.
Yeah,
Okay,
But it can, there's a lot of back and forth communication with those lending libraries and, yeah, so for the county, they have a person dedicated just for that.
well, this is exciting. Is there
Yeah.
anything else back on the shared catalog?
I think that's it. It's just, yeah, just working through it. Just a good example of us trying to make sure we're maximizing our resources for the public. So through collaboration, which is nice. So,
I know there are enough questions still unanswered to do this, but somewhere along the line, somebody from here is gonna design like an announcement, informational page or brochure telling the members of all of these libraries,
Yeah.
what's new, what's not changed. Like Marcia was saying, if you just wanna check out a book, it's not gonna feel any different.
Mhm.
Except I'll have 3 choices instead of just Monterey and PG today.
5 choices.
yeah, then you got the
Fine.
lockers and the bookmobile. Yeah, so I think,
Choices.
yeah, so that was something when I was on the call with them the other day too, with the group, and I said like how wide we want to do, because we didn't want to do the announcement, the rollout, the public announcement. We don't want to do it too early because we're dealing with all
Yeah.
the back end and
yeah, no.
making sure all that timing is done.
Growing pains too.
But then once we get that going, we want to put out, I'd like to put out the press release, get the people out there,
Right.
put it in the newsletter, get it with different ways so people understand when they look at that catalog,
Right.
what they
And
see.
you don't want to muddy things up too much, but it does seem like the lockers are new and maybe that needs a repeat of how to use it and that they're even available. A lot of things get by a lot of people.
Mhm.
Yeah, we'll get it all. Yeah,
Right.
getting it all that information.
Yeah.
But somewhere in that long timeline, there'll be a number of really great opportunities for little, maybe even 15-second, 20-second public service announcement kinds of things that will allow us to not only promote the library and its innovation and the new stuff, but say something about, and don't hesitate to donate when you wake up tomorrow morning. No, I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, it's rather than, oh, you've been sitting around for decades and you're still in the old building and still in the old toilets and everything. This would be an example of pointing out
Toilets.
something that's
Yeah,
quite special.
Right. Never want to miss an opportunity.
yeah.
With that. Okay, so we will move on to consent agenda. Before we go in,
Yeah.
I little point of procedure. If I was, Harish and I were not at the January meeting, do we sit out on?
No, if you've read through them, if you reviewed it, you could still make a motion. that-
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
good. So we don't need to pull
Yeah,
that just
right.
over that. Okay.
Yeah,
thank
What
you.
I have done when I have missed a meeting is I would say I do or don't approve the consent agenda, but I'm not voting on item number,
Okay,
let's say it was last month, number 3,
okay.
And then can I'll just
because I was absent.
just do a call for anybody online, anybody attending remote on Zoom. If you'd like to make a comment regarding the item, please raise your Zoom hand or dial, if you're contacting on the phone, dial *9. And there is no one raising their Zoom hand, so we can go to the consent agenda.
Okay, so now we are on the consent agenda, items 2 through 7. Is there anything there that needs to get?
I
Full
don't think it's
discussion.
worth pulling for it, but the attendees present in the February one has Janie here twice.
Huh?
And
Okay, well, and I also saw that she was signing as the chair.
it says absent none, and
We can make it,
That's just a typo change.
yeah, we can make that.
that's
So
just
it's
a,
Joshi.
that's just a
Is that
type.
February?
Right,
January?
February.
Yeah, February, we, 2 Silveras and
Says
John
no
Joshi.
absent, but
Okay.
Rita was on here, I think.
Okay.
I'd like to pull item 7 and have that be discussed individually.
Okay. If that is all we have for exceptions, we'd be looking for a motion to approve items 2 through 6.
So moved.
Second,
Second. All in favor, aye?
aye.
Aye. Any noes? Okay, motion carries, so we're fine with 2 through 6. So item 7 is approving outside employment at C Monterey for library and museums director.
Yeah, so that's me. So basically,
That's you.
that's me. So, as you may recall before, I was mentioning the kind of the work with C Monterey, which is essentially they are asked me to do a kind of a content series called Monterey 1000, which is a local history kind of website content, interviews. It's a number of kind of projects in terms of throughout the year doing interviews with people countywide. So covering all of their service levels and service areas, which includes, basically Moss Landing, Salinas, Seaside, Sand City, King City, Soledad. It's all of this wide kind of vast area over there. It's not just the city of Monterey. So with that, and it's kind of like, how do you highlight history and create what they say, like through lines to places where you can visit and travel today. So if you're talking, so for example, I recently wrote about Juan Danza Trail, and did an interview with a historian descendant from the Danza Trail, or I did an article regarding this, should be published probably next week, about Cabrillo and about Cabrillo in 1542 and explorers coming to Monterey. So it was about writing about content to there and like how can you explore and see the same way that Cabrillo did in 1542. If you were to do that, what's the closest way that you can do that? Or in the in the Danza Trail, it's like what sites are along the Danza Trail, which parks are along the Danza Trail. How do you get that 250 years ago, where would they have been? So it's connecting that like basically in countywide. Another one was filming with Susan Schillinglaw. We went to the Steinbeck House in Salinas. And so spending a lot of time writing content, doing that stuff. One option of that kind of work, and the city manager and mayor had actually recommended me to see Monterey to be the person that kind of wrote the content, was their content lead. And I said, this is a lot of time. Like it's a lot of time to do writing content, to like writing, researching content and everything like that. So I said, this should be outside of my general work, because otherwise, like, for example, I was mentioning Melissa, I stayed up till 3 a.m. like Sunday night writing so that I could get my article in. And I was working on that on the weekends. So a lot of times I'm working on these on weekends, researching, writing, finding articles, going to historians. So and then on this follow-up with that is that the city every year in March, the city asks all staff that are what we call RPT, regular part-time or full-time, to send in a document about for outside employment for that. And so this is we're here in March, and this is the timeline for that for outside employment. And checked with the city attorney and assistant city manager. And they both said there was no conflict from working with this. And they preferred that I bring it back to the board for the board approval. So that's where I'm here, and happy to answer any questions or comments or anything.
Does the city have a maximum number of hours of external employment that you can do? I mean,
No.
if you say, I want to work, 40 hours a week in addition to my 40, that's okay, or?
There was no max. And I mean, I put in, I think it was usually 10 to 20 hours a week that I'm doing. And I would say I typically do more than 40 hours a week here already.
Yeah.
So I do this like.
So you put in, it's an hourly thing, you build them hourly. Or
I build them per content. So if like, there's like per piece, that it's like per piece, there's a thing. And I have one other colleague that that I work with that's an author on that, to actually help write. The two of us are writing pretty much all the content.
So you sent a link and I looked at it, and those beautiful little stories, that is the kind of content that you're writing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so all of
you
those,
already have a few of them up there.
yeah, I think I have 6.
Yeah.
And basically they're looking at almost like, I think there's other ones that are coming up, like about, different topics throughout the year, whether that's wine growing, car week. There's just different things all around. We're talking about Highway 1, agriculture, so there's a lot of topics that are all about different areas. And so really the people that I'm connecting with are all throughout the county, like the people in their, like literature, art, the history of kind of arts in Monterey County and all that. So they're all around in here. And it's pretty
Very
wide.
interesting.
And so it's just, this is a 1 year kind of a project, and they're hoping to have like this 1 year project. And then this gives them this kind of like this historical timeline that's on their website for historic tourism. And so that people, because the piece around there is that when I've talked with them, it's about, for most everything we do, we need either donor funds or general funds or tourist funds for a lot of these sites to actively stay open and, people to be engaged in history. And so with this, it was, okay, how do you highlight, for example, we did the Point Pinos Lighthouse, and like I went, Stuart, my colleague, wrote the piece. I took photos. I went over there on a Sunday, visited on a Sunday just to go and hang out and took photos. But other ones have gone through other photo collections or did archival search to the National Park Service or, Library of Congress and things like that.
Is there in-person presentation, or is it mostly just the writing the pieces?
There's mostly writing. They're looking at 2 videos per quarter. So for the first quarter, I did an interview with Sam Farr, and then that was about 2.5 hours of just straight interview time with Sam Farr. But there was a lot of research that I did about what I wanted to do for that 2.5 hours. The second interview was with Susan Schillinglaw for Steinbeck, and that was a lot of stuff I knew, but then also other research for that. The next 2 are potentially pinnacles,
Nice.
and then a follow-up about the history of winemaking and looking at female winemakers of Monterey County. So we're looking at, that is the follow-up is like, that would be that next quarter, and then the follow-up quarter would be potentially other ones. But so some of those, because I like to do photography, I take photos. So some of the ones that are the photos on there, some of the photos are mine as well that I put up.
Nice.
That sounds like a full-time job.
Yeah, well, it's a great compliment with the library and museums. But it makes for a little gray line, a little blurry. Is that of concern at all?
That was why we're checking with the city attorney in
Right.
terms of that, like whether
Right.
there's the gray line.
Well, and for them to bring it to you
Yeah.
is,
And I think Bob has a question on there too, yeah.
I have so many questions about this. I was hoping some of the answers would come out before I opened my mouth, but it sounds like you've been doing this for a while. I don't know if it's weeks, months, or whatever already. And according to the city code, you're supposed to turn in an outside work request or requirement form. Have you done that?
That's what I said. That's what I mentioned, because I had that signed off by the city, that was by the assistant city manager.
Well, that brings up a major question in my mind is, why are you going? You don't work for the city attorney nor the city manager. I can find all kinds of references where you work for this board right here.
Right.
So wouldn't the appropriate thing have been to bring it to us, discuss it, and then assuming everything sounded great, then go if you felt the need instead of the reverse?
In fact, we did discuss it last week. I brought it up.
He brought his part-time job?
Yeah. I brought it up here. It was on the activity report and I said, hey, you want to tell us about this? And he did tell us. And he did say it was above and beyond the work.
Well, that was after the fact. You'd already talked to the city attorney and the city manager.
Not at that point. It was about the form, and that was prior to that when I brought it up. I think even when I was during my review, when I was talking about one of the goals and things I was working on, and I was saying that this would be something, because of the time, I would not be doing it during my work time because of the amount of time that it would take to do the work.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, I agree with Marcia. It sounds like a lot of work if you really want to, it sounds like interesting stuff. So I can understand why you'd want to put in a lot of time. In the agenda packet, with regard to this item. It talks about, how, you're going to spend the time doing this. Primarily evenings, Saturdays, Sundays, when the library director is not working for the city. So that would say that you consider this job only Monday through Friday, probably 8 to 5 or whatever. Is that correct? Because it says here, you're gonna do it when you're not working for the library, and you're gonna do it on evenings, Saturdays or Sundays.
So
See, that doesn't make sense to me.
so when I put in the request on the time, I can put it in there, but what I will say is I don't work 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
Right.
That's not
No.
how many hours I work. I will say that I have worked, and my staff can attest to it, that I'm here often on Saturdays when we have programs at other sites and working at other sites. So I work more than 40 hours a week.
Oh, absolutely. I would
and
expect that, to be
and I-
honest.
And
And
what
I don't doubt it for a second.
And what I would say is that you will see me here when something happens with the Friends and Foundation, when we're doing a cleanup of our chocolate and wine. The person who unlocked the building, come up here, was me. That was a Sunday. I'm saying when I'm not working I'm primarily not working Saturday and Sunday because I primarily work Monday through Friday. Those are most of my time hours are Monday through Friday, are the days that I am here. The days that I'm not here, on the most part, are Saturdays and Sundays.
In evenings.
And evenings when the library is closed. I will be here off until 6:30 or so. And so if I'm working at home and I get a call that says, hey, there is a call for security, I am still, yes, I am on call.
Right, you're on call all the
But-
time.
But yeah, I'm thinking on that side of it, like when I'm working at home on something, I'm not counting all those little hours, but I'm saying I'm working on something, I'm writing something at 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night. I consider that my time.
Is this something that needs to be voted, or that the board needs to vote on?
It is on the agenda, so yeah.
Yeah. I'd like to move that we approve the consulting.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
No, there needs to be a discussion of the motion, and I
Oh, okay.
personally haven't finished getting all the clarification I was hoping for. The Monterey is primarily a tourism generating, encouraging, facilitating agency. Okay. I'm wondering, how does that necessarily enhance the library?
It doesn't need to.
It enhances the county and the city for sure.
This is not
We
part of
get
the
funded
library
from the city.
position. This is
If
something.
the city is getting funds from tourism,
There's nothing
that
to,
benefits us.
Yeah, this work,
And it doesn't need to, right?
Yeah.
You could, is there a limit to what city employees can do for outside? I mean, if somebody felt like opening a restaurant or something totally unrelated to
Oh, sure.
their
Yeah.
full-time job.
And I would be, you could volunteer for no pay. You could work, serving pizzas at Mountain Mike's. I don't care what you do, what anybody does on their own time.
Right.
But if it is deemed appropriate to bring it to the attention of the board for whom somebody works, or the department head, if it's, in one of the other departments of the city, then I think it's not wrong for the city to say, well, okay, if you're connecting it to the city, even to that extent, what's the connection? What's the benefit?
It's a question of, is there a conflict of interest? There's no conflict of interest here, then he is free to do what he wants. That's true for all employees.
I don't think that the board owns Brian's time all the time, and we can tell.
No.
He can do on Saturdays and Sundays. Right.
No, I mean, and if we deem anybody needs to spend more than, say, 40 hours a week because of some special project or something, then in all job descriptions, there's this general stuff like, or other duties as requested and stuff, statements like that are so vague but what it means is if there's something to do, you do it, even if it takes you more than 40 hours that
But is
week.
the implication that he's neglecting his work to do this? Is that what you're trying to say?
I'm saying that, without knowing what the link is,
But suppose there's
I'm
no
not
link.
alleging that. I'm just saying, huh?
Suppose there's no link at all. I mean, that usually, you're saying that this is the tourism side of the city and it doesn't really have anything to do
Right,
with
if
the
you wanted to
library.
get a job
This is something-
teaching surfing.
Oh, yeah, it's fine, that's fine. I'm not arguing with what he's doing.
Uh-huh.
I'm talking about the procedure by which it was established. I believe strongly the board should have been consulted first before getting approval from the city manager, the city attorney, or starting all those neat projects. And I think they're great. I think you're fantastic with all the activities and stuff you've been working on. Wonderful. I have not a problem with the quality of any of those. My concern is staying within the organizational procedure that is set up.
And as a result, what are you suggesting? I'm trying to.
I just wanted to discuss that. I'm not suggesting necessarily anything now. I mean, I guess I wonder, why did you feel you needed the city manager and city attorney's stamp of approval? Before bringing it up to much discussion here.
So that form is due in March.
It's due every,
We submitted in March. We submitted in March is when the city asked, the city HR requested we fill out that form. As I mentioned when I was talking with the board last year in terms of the project initially, and I was saying this is going to be outside of the time that I could see needing to spend on this project in terms of my current workload of what I'm working on. I said that's where it would be outside. And the form was due in March. We send that through. We don't send that form is sent through for me to Nat Rojana Sathir for Nat to sign off on it in terms of like they work with me on the museum side. The city does see them as my manager on some sides of the museums, even though because I'm the library and museums director.
Especially because we don't cover museums.
Yeah,
fully.
And so what happened was prior to when it initially was brought to my attention last year, and that was from what I understand.
it being this form.
No, the project.
Oh,
The project late last year was, with the city manager and the mayor recommending me to see Monterey is what I was told. That's where they were done. And so with that, I then said, hey, I got the form and I said, hey, I'm sending it through our city process. Okay, what's the right process to do this? Because I don't technically you're not my boss, right? So I'm saying within this form where we have a form, it's going to be signed by the assistant city manager in that route, because this is how we route the form. How do we do this? And that's why me asking that question with the city and then Nat saying, well, let me check with the city attorney. So Nat is the one that checked with the city attorney and the city attorney confirmed, yes, this should be signed. There should be not signed, should be agendized for Board of Library Trustees. And as I mentioned, the timeline for this was the form comes out in March. And we are here we didn't have it at the last meeting because I didn't have the form.
Although we did discuss it in theory.
In theory, but I didn't have the form until the beginning of March. And that's why it's on the March agenda meeting. So that's where I was thinking of the timeline.
Okay, did you have anything else?
so the form asks for whose signature on it?
That was,
I mean, you did it this month, right?
yeah,
So whose signature was required?
Assistant city manager.
assistant city manager, I believe, on that one.
Yeah, I mean, that just doesn't make any sense at all to me, because you don't work for the city manager, you work for this board. This board hires, this board fires, this board evaluates, this board receives advice and consultation from you and vice versa.
I think that's a process that's beyond Brian. I mean, it sounds like.
I'm
it's
sorry?
I think what you're
Question.
objecting to is the city's process.
That's exactly what I said. It's the procedure, not what he's doing.
And so that.
Not
you
what
take
he's
that up
doing.
with- You could take that up with the city, but I don't see what we can do about the fact that the city has the wrong signature on the form.
No, but
I'm
But
not,
he's still an employee of the city.
right,
He has to follow the city's rules.
right,
He reports to us, but he's not, we don't pay his salary.
right.
we don't pay his salary. What do you mean? The city pays
The board does.
everybody's. The city pays everybody's salary. Yeah,
right.
sure.
So it's correct for him to go through the city.
So
Process.
that's what the process is.
Uh-huh.
But for right or wrong, that's what the process is.
Well, and as I said at the beginning of my comments was that there is a little bit of a blurry line because See Monterey covers a lot of what somebody could learn by visiting one of our museums. And in the history and all of that. And so it's also a little muddy because in Brian's capacity as museums director, that is not our purview. That would come to Nat and I guess that's who it would go to, right?
Yeah, under
Yeah.
museums is under now.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So we have a special circumstance because of the board overseeing the library and library director activities. And job performance and all of that, but we just barely touch on the museum side of it. And so I guess we could feel like we were left out of this conversation, but we aren't the only ones that belong in it because of the museum side of your job with the city. Is that right?
Well, I think that's where there's that arm of it is technically the city has seen it as the museums are under city manager,
Right. Right.
under the city manager, and that's what.
And that's why it was appropriate for the city side of things to say, you're a good fit for this.
Yeah, I think that was their initial thought. It was working on that city side of it,
Mm-hmm.
but not highlighting specifically city. Typically, if we were just to highlight just the city, then it would be only writing about city of Monterey content. But then when they start expanding out of, we want you to highlight Soledad or highlight King City and like other resources around there, then it goes out of the
It's a little
scope.
far flung.
It's a little far flung outside of the city scope.
But let me ask a question. Do you see this thing expanding to where it'll eat the time in the library? Do you see this thing expanding to where it'll start eating your time in the library?
I don't.
Okay.
Well, and that would have to be a conscious decision up front that
Mhm.
they don't intend for it to ever overtake your obligations here.
Right.
And that's basically all our business in it, because you're free to do whatever you want with your free time.
Am I correct in understanding you said that, well, I don't know if it was Nat or Hans or Chrissy or all three of them, but came to you and said, hey, there's this thing going on at See Monterey, would you like to do it? That they approached you?
See
Or did I
Monterey.
misunderstand that?
See Monterey approached me directly.
Yeah.
And what I heard from them was that I was recommended by the city manager and mayor. That's what See Monterey told me. It wasn't the city attorney who recommended. It was those two individuals, what I was told before. They were probably looking at who is a good contact
Yeah.
for this kind of a project.
So See Monterey must have contacted city management, and then city management recommended you. And as a consequence, See Monterey contacted you. Because they
Most-
got the recommendation from city management.
Most likely, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, that would have been.
I mean, we don't know exactly, but that makes sense.
Yeah, and Hans retired, but that's who initially, I believe, they said like, this person is a good person for history content or
Yeah.
telling stories and these kind of things.
Oh, and I agree. I think you're excellent in that kind of stuff. All those activities and programs and setting up self-guided tours and you name it. Yeah, there's no question about the quality of that stuff at all. In my mind.
Are there any other questions? No. Comments? Okay, so do you, the motion has been made and seconded, so now we vote. Okay, so all in favor of approving this
Right?
employment? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Any abstain?
Okay, then it passes. All right, so that is the end of consent agenda. Do we want to see if, again, if there is anybody with public comment?
Sure, as a reminder, if you're listening online, if you would like to make a comment, please raise your Zoom hand, or if you are dialing on the phone, please dial *9. And we have no one waiting for comments.
Okay. Then we would be ready to move on to the advocacy talking points. And I would make one for myself. But I have it memorized. So what did everybody think? We have it does not fit in your wallet right now.
I can fold it.
Well, but that is one of the things we'll talk about is what we will actually.
Are these the same words and bullet points that were on the little tiny one that we got last week? They're
No.
different?
Not at all.
Not, yeah, not at all.
I just want to say, I think this is great. I mean, I think last week needed a lot of work. Somebody did a lot of work.
Right,
And
right.
It's
It did, yeah, it's
really-
come a long way. We had to,
I mean, it's very pithy, but it kind of captures everything.
right, well, and that was why I wanted to include what Ally had written on behalf of Friends and Foundation, because
Foundation League is lovely also.
yes, and we need to all stay in our lanes, and I think we were trying to maybe do too much before.
Mhm.
That isn't in our purview. So, the aim was to, so that we can talk to, city people, card holders, any.
So this isn't something to pass out to the public. This is
No.
something for us to use to guide our presentations and stuff, just so we have continuity.
I don't see any problem with it being distributed.
I think it serves that purpose for public as well.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, but these are the talking points that we would use. But we'll definitely share it with interested parties.
Well, the way it's written for the speaker, for the advocate who is doing the presentation. For example, the community still wants access to the library resources on evenings and Mondays. I mean, that's something you're suggesting. If I were a speaker, to me, it's not something I would hand to the public. I mean, the way just the wording made me think that it's a good set of guidelines and points to remember and things to make sure you touch on. And for everybody, so that maybe we all say that particular thing. So it's
That for
direction
sure.
to me.
Yeah, that for sure, that we do want to be all talking from the same.
Yeah, whether you and I mention every single one of the 3, 4, 5 bullet points in people and programs, we want to make sure we mention a lot of the same ones, and that we don't. If this says there's 47,000 card holders, you don't want me saying there's 1,047,000.
Right.
So it guides the speaker is
Well,
my
I think
point.
the fact that it's called advocacy kind of defines
Yeah,
who should have this.
a guide to
I think it's- everybody
advocacy.
wants to have it, but it's really targeted towards
Yeah,
advocacy.
I mean, it's more for our guidance, because it says a guide to advocacy, right? And we're not asking the general public to be advocates. We want them to be,
Why not?
Oh, I
Respondents.
think we are. I don't think that I am on the same page with you, Bob, on that, because this is our little cheat sheet. But it is
Yeah.
also,
our cheat sheet, right?
but anybody can advocate for the library.
Well, true,
And, yeah.
but,
so
but we're, I mean, our part of our pitch isn't, so, hey, volunteer to be an advocate. It's if, I would expect if I shared this with a neighborhood group, let's say, that there would be some number of my neighbors who like the library, and now they have some ammunition because I've talked to them. And they may or may not choose to talk to somebody when they go to church the next Sunday,
Right,
about it.
but they could be given this in case they wanted to.
Or a version of
volunteer.
it that has the same information, but is clearly written for them.
This would have been a good thing to have for the chocolate and wine thing. With so many visitors.
Right,
In the agenda notes, it says, this public guide would allow trustees, Friends Foundation members, volunteers, and community members to advocate for the Monterey Public Library.
It's like everything.
Yeah, but
okay, so
But
that
there
is
is a
who
point
we're
that-
writing it on
that-
behalf of.
yes, but maybe we don't just hand it out of the desk or something. Maybe it's
Yeah.
targeted that we talk to our neighbors or
Right.
whoever first.
In fact,
and
I could
then-
see if I could talk to a group, and this is my cheat sheet, and I could say, hey, if this is interested in you, let me share my notes. You can take this home and you can repeat them exactly as I verbalized them, or put them in your own words. I could use this as kind of a prompt,
Right,
but I agree, it shouldn't just be sitting at the desk with the bookmarks.
right,
But
for
we did
the,
talk about having a mark up at some point
right,
that might say some things, but maybe not.
right, that you want to share broadly. Well, like for the NCIB project, we were asking anybody who would like to advocate for the library to come forward and. they
Some people
didn't.
did,
Well, and they didn't have to have an official capacity.
no,
We had students and
A question,
neighbors. Yes,
the last bullet point is in bold. Is that on purpose or that the staff?
that was intentional because within that category, that's the greatest
destination.
need, the ask.
Hmm.
And that was, we were trying to have everything up to the bold be the facts and figures about that heading
Mhm.
and the bold be
I'll
what we need.
clarify that.
Yeah. Yeah, and so on that, because this would go to, graphic design
Mhm.
within Canva to look better and if we like the cover, we would be going with full color.
Mhm.
So does the bold do it for you, or should that be another color ink or?
and can we make any suggestions to the wording?
For sure, that's why I sent it ahead,
Okay.
that's where we are looking for input.
Yes, I had a question. That the first one about hours and access,
Mhm.
says the community still wants access to library resources on evenings and Monday mornings. We used to be open on Sunday, so maybe we could say 7 days,
Specifically,
Just
evenings and 7 days.
right, because the first one says that we're 6 days.
And
a
I
week.
would say, as the library was open up until, just so that people realize that it's been cut back.
Well, this is my thought that there should be some context in it that in 2019, the
Yeah.
library was open, X hours,
7
7
days.
days a week.
Yeah.
But
That is
the
on the
election
Friends and
budget was-
Foundation piece. They have it on their
Yeah.
website, I think, right?
They do?
I
Okay.
thought they did, or the number of hours or something. I thought they. did.
Right, and
I
in
think-
Ally's splitting out who should be
Yeah,
talking about what, she did ask for more specifics about where we were in the past and where we are now.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe you do put that on here. I don't know, but I was just thinking that
But
there was a
Marsha,
time when.
Marsha, since we have digital access, the library is a welcoming place all 7 days anyway.
Well,
Yes,
if you're gonna bring
physically
your
open.
3-year-old in to look at books in the,
It's not for,
yeah.
I mean. You can't get a book. Well, I guess you can out of the
Lockers.
sports center
Yeah.
in the middle of the night, but.
Well, it's not open in the same way it used to be, no matter
Right.
what.
So in general, what do we think about
I don't know.
including what's changed, or
Maybe
is there
you
a
just
point in
Say
time?
something like would like expanded hours and leave it at that, Right, or saying even expanded hours, including evening or something.
Instead of saying evenings and Monday mornings?
except it's not clear. I mean, it is said somewhere else on the thing what our hours are, but you
Right,
know,
we did-
it's, I think it's terrible that we don't have any evenings. And so, you know, it ought to be,
Expanded hours, including evenings or something like
Yeah.
that.
You know, I think we could easily look back and do a little arithmetic and see how many hours, 7 days a week
I got it.
total back when, right? Oh, you got that?
Randy Rock,
Well, I got it from 2 years ago when we were.
2 years
creating
ago?
this thing. Well, when we were creating this
Oh,
thing to
oh.
go before the council.
Okay, but, and then we could look at how many hours we're physically open now.
Yes.
And we could say the library's only open
Okay, so
75% as many hours as it used to be.
2019, open 52 hours per week, 7 days, including 4 evenings. And then, well, this would have to be updated because
Yeah,
we have
of the
the
Monday.
But in
so it would
principle.
be 40. Yeah, and staffing, 18.75 FTE total, and then. you
So
know,
just in terms of that top row of information, it's like 40 some compared to 50 some.
Right.
Which is,
Yeah.
means we're only open about roughly 80% as much time as we used to be,
Yeah,
4/5.
so,
And
this was just
I can't read that from
a
here.
one.
That's
a one
okay.
pager
I have my
that-
reading glasses on, so don't worry about it.
one
but,
pager we
My
created
point
it.
is that might make an impression on people that, hey, the library used to be much better funded, and we could add, and this takes additional funding to be open that much.
so that and probably a whole lot of other things in these 4 categories that we wrote about. We could go into further detail or we could trim it down to even less. What is our feeling about the size of the piece? Because we started out wanting something this big, and so you can't talk about
You mean the physical size of the paper?
Right.
Or the size of the list?
the size of the paper.
Okay,
If you made that smaller, not bigger, it has to be legible. That was the problem we had
yeah,
with the.
no, I think this font is good, and cutting it off, you know, like right below where the printing stops on the front and back makes it a little handier. And I see why if it was a little fold up and put in your wallet size, you would have
You'd
to
have
pass
to-
out magnifying glasses with it.
Or we'd have to eliminate a lot. That's what I'm trying to get to.
And in my
It's way too
opinion-
Much,
The number of bullet points is at its maximum.
right.
Is that
And so that's where we have to decide
Mm-hmm.
what goes in and what, we can't put everything in there that we
Exactly.
want. And so those are the choices that have to be made. Did we get the point across with the words we used?
I think we could cut down the number of words.
You think there's
For
further
example,
editing?
well, let me do this one. The third bullet is book mobile library all offers expand access in area throughout Monterey. So just greatly expand the access. That's.
And a lot of it can be cut down, just.
Yeah.
A lot of
Yeah.
it could just, that's like easy, like whoever is designing it, you know.
Especially if we're
Yeah.
we're trimming down the
They'll-
number of people this is for.
Mhm.
You know, if this is for fewer people to use.
And I think there are times when we could add a word. Plenty of times, like Harish was saying, but in the bullet point in the upper right corner, current collection budget, I would say covers only 80% of what is spent. Instead of just 80%. I mean, it's superfluous, but it makes a point that, you know, only 80% is less than what could be spent. I mean, that's the secondary message, I think, that's there. So every now and then a little word, I would not rewrite this to be longer. I would do more of what Harish was suggesting.
So as far as next steps, would we want to get input from everybody to do their editing and share what they think, and then we take another pass at it? Or
Send it to the two of you that are on the advocacy committee. I mean, go through this and highlight and send it over.
okay, are there other things that we need to talk about here today?
And can I just ask a question here? It just made me think while we were discussing this here too. Because I know it does mention, you know, like pocket guide also for community members, and I do feel that's like a very broad number. So my first thought on that, I do think it's like, it would be a great point for us to have a stack of these available, you know, like at the desk or something like that, because we do have the times when you meet somebody who's like, I'd love to help advocate for service, and you want to just provide them something. And even the staff, because sometimes the
Right,
staff might have
volunteers.
volunteer staff, people don't always have the right numbers, all of the talking points. So us having a stack of these pre-printed, I think it'd be great.
I think an abridged edition of this for the passing out in that way to the general public.
And then also what I would think might be good also, as I mentioned, you know, over by like where the fish are on the wall and like the donor kind of a component, it could be even something where there's a version of this, which is somewhat of an
Yeah.
advocacy,
That's
but
right.
it's also like do you want to have your name on this? Do you want to donate to this? So we could use some of this content, right? I feel like because there are some things which is like the hours. You know, I don't want somebody saying I'm donating to the library now, we're going to open another hour, because that's not going to be the same thing, right? But if they're going to say like collections are going to go towards this and programs are going to go to this, we use a lot of that language on that same form, and then that way we can use, you know, we get a bridge basically from that. So I think
Right.
that'd be a good way to use it.
Well, and I think if you were putting something by, you know, hanging on the wall you're talking about,
Yeah, there's a little hanger that's actually about this size. It's actually
a
it's actually
literature holder.
it's a literature holder
Okay,
already there that's in that space.
yeah, because the other thing to think about is how much do you want it to be about a certain point in time? It's these are good references because of you know, the cutbacks that have happened, but that's 2 years ago now, and 2 years from now,
Yeah.
it changes all the time. And so, so you need it to be general enough that the things you are saying hold true.
Yeah, well, if you're gonna send this to us in electronic form, this isn't part of
We
the
have
agenda
it, we
package.
have it electronic form. She sent it this morning.
This one, this morning?
But it was a PDF, so I,
There's a PDF.
yeah, I can.
Oh,
I can
okay.
send it.
That's okay.
I printed it on my home printer.
Yeah.
Oh,
And it came on my email.
oh, okay. So, because pursuant to what we were saying is each of us will read it and suggest some words and
Yes.
so forth. But that's already in my possession
Yes.
somewhere electronically.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Okay.
got it this morning.
Great.
Oh, it's in mail?
You got it, Diane.
Yeah,
emailed it this
I
morning.
sent it this morning.
Oh,
I didn't,
So next steps are,
oh,
everybody reads
It's a
it
PDF, yeah.
and
I can convert
it
it.
sends suggested changes back to you. Is that-
Yes, I think that's good.
okay,
Yeah.
they go to you.
Yes,
Um,
And then
Yeah.
we discuss it
Brian,
again.
Melissa, Janie and I were the ones working on this.
when
But
when
yeah,
is the, refresh my memory, is it the first week of each month when you meet with Brian and, authorize the, agenda?
It's usually the beginning of the second week.
Beginning of the second week. Well, then I would say by the end of the first week should be our deadline at the latest for getting stuff to you. So you have time to,
Yeah,
you know,
that's good.
look at it, whether it's relevant to your conversation about creating the agenda or not. I want, make sure you're not, you know, receiving it Sunday night at 11 o'clock or something.
Right. Right, yeah, tentatively, we would be meeting on April 13th.
Okay, and that's a Monday?
So that's a Monday,
13,
so yeah,
13,
so.
12, 11, 10. So by
Yeah, so-
close of business on the 10th
On 10?
or earlier?
Right.
Yeah,
Or
PDF
10.
editor.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So yeah, I have a way where I can open something in a PDF and
So
highlight it and underline it
does
and all
it,
kinds of
does
stuff.
it
But we
make
can
sense
do a
also
strike
to
through
ask
and,
Friends and Foundation
Yeah,
people
sure.
for feedback?
can you do that? Can you do a strike? through
Yes,
and
we
say-
had wanted to have somebody
A lot
from
of
Friends
things
and
like-
Foundation
yeah,
work
it-
on this with us.
it's a special-
She's not available during
Thing at
work,
the firehouse.
but yeah,
Or at least Ally anyway, right?
yeah, Ally has been looped in on all
Oh,
of
okay.
this, and she phoned in. She wasn't able to attend our meeting last week, but she was on speakerphone, and so she's been in this loop. But I do think that somebody not as close as Ally is to it, somebody more more,
See how that
Yeah,
works.
maybe,
know,
maybe a
you know,
donor,
casual.
maybe a donor.
See,
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, just what I would say, where do you go?
here.
Right, I agree, I
So
agree.
you
So
might
it's
decide or not.
more
Right.
casual.
Choices.
I don't know who,
And,
you know, who the, you know, the.
But can you do a
hangers
strike
donor,
through and say,
somebody could just
remove
take a
this
look and
and
say, what do you think?
replace it with this?
Well, there's
They
a
might
place
have
to
some
add
good
text.
suggestions.
Right.
Okay.
I have
I
a
can add
bunch
that
of
anywhere.
real tricky little
Put it.
specific
So I can-
questions
something here
and
that's-
stuff that I bring them up now, but I mean.
Might be easier
I
to
just
just open it
wasn't
regularly.
involved in some of this.
Yeah.
When it says we have 24/7 online access to ebooks, newspapers, magazines, and historical archives. I think it's a little misleading because some archives are available online, but not
Not all of
that
them.
many compared to what
Okay.
we have. And I don't know, I wouldn't want it to be misrepresenting, or maybe we could say some are select.
Many or something, we need an adjective.
Some.
Select. And select historical archives, yeah.
Yeah, select is probably.
Or maybe you don't
Good
wanna say 24/7, I mean, you know.
Well, that's the whole
Why
idea
not?
of the e-library though, right? That you do have access to that 24/7. So, and that is language that a lot of libraries use when they're promoting their website.
What was it again?
Select.
The 24/7 library, it's meant to refer to the online library. So,
I see,
yeah,
Yeah.
just
just,
conventional.
Yeah.
yeah. I would say people
Yeah.
would hopefully understand, but yeah.
And
That's what I've seen that language be used a lot.
Or depending on Melissa's mood. that they-
Yeah.
And I also thought, some of it was a little repetitive, that everything greatly expands community access, and over here, the catalog resources. Maximize resources and expand access. I don't know, it just.
Okay, so I feel like
Yeah,
those are the
I
kind of
can do
things
those
that we can do
things. Yeah.
in this,
Yeah.
everybody sending their
Yeah.
feedback.
And the
Those are
only-
semantics.
Yeah, well, the only other thing was that some things are really specific, like the ebooks, cost of ebooks, and then other things are more general, like.
Well, the cost of ebooks was put in there because of the licensing being significant. You don't want people to think, oh, an ebook is $10.
Yeah,
Because when you buy it
Okay.
for personal
And-
use, yeah, so they
And-
may have a different understanding.
And so, can I add on that, just, yeah, because I feel like there are some of these where we looked at, polling the group and we were discussing these, I think this is another piece to think, is there anything missing for anybody here? Is there anything that is missing on this table? Because what we were talking about, and that's one of the things is that we get on the library side, is that people have a misconception of how we get ebooks, how much they are. So it was like having something like this, where basically you go to somebody and say, well, I go to Amazon and I can get that ebook for $12.
Yeah.
And then you as the advocate can say, actually for the library, $75, and there's limited licensing because they're
Right.
carrying it.
Right.
So that's where I think, like, is there anything on your guys' side? And also that's another part for Trustee Moreau's talking, like running it past the donor, because is there something that communicates well to people out there when they're asking us those questions?
One thing that I will put into my own words, I guess, when I send you my input. Yeah, under the people and programs, it says, summer reading program, but instead of so many numbers there in that particular section, I'd like to say that there are programs for toddlers and their parents. There are programs about politics and adult health for the older members of the community. And just mention some of the general areas, if not topics, that we have programs. And maybe in lieu of saying there were 134,000 visits in a year. I mean, if we are worried about space, I'd like to see some mention of or allusion to the types of programs in that section. Because there have been many mornings where I've driven by and there's a mother and one kid in a stroller and another one, getting carried in a backpack, all waiting for 10 o'clock so they can go in and there's an activity. And, I think we need to paint the picture that, hey, we're place that has a lot of stuff for a lot of people. And we don't have to list all the topics of that, but just rather than a number, let's say, I would like to say.
Okay, I will send this to everybody in Word and Pages, so you can edit and make your own versions or whatever.
Don't send it to all Apple or all Microsoft.
I'm sorry, I don't have a PC anymore.
Well, so you use Pages.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think,
yeah, that's what I just said. I'll send
Yeah,
it in
yeah.
Word and Pages.
I think
And-
that, yeah, some of the challenges could be rewritten a little bit, but
Okay,
we'll
so,
work
yeah.
on
And can we send it back to you in a PDF?
Sure.
Okay,
Uh,
it's easier for me to convert it to PDF for making corrections.
What's important is to tell her what you have changed, not just the
Yeah,
date.
oh, yeah,
Here's what I
Right.
deleted, here's what I added.
different color.
That's why I said, strike
You
through it
can
all.
use
that.
the word editing tool. you know,
Exactly.
With the strikeouts and.
Right, right,
Exactly.
colors.
That's
That's what I
Okay,
said.
so what
best.
we'll be looking for in general, not just the wording of things,
Yeah.
is what do you want to see more of, or what do you feel is missing?
Absolutely.
What do you think might be trivial that isn't worth the ink?
Mhm.
What is redundant in wording or content? And anything else? Who you think this audience is? Anything else that we'd be looking for feedback? Any other feedback we'd be looking for?
Mhm.
Well,
It's a
Does
minor
that sound like good next
comment.
steps? Okay. All right,
Somewhere there should be a how to contact us kind of thing.
you know, that. well, that
Number,
was-
email.
well, that is another thing,
Yeah.
but yeah, do we
On the-
don't, maybe you don't wanna say, I don't know, cause Ally thought that the QR code or the guide to give shouldn't be on this one, but
Well-
I think it should.
I think it should. I definitely think that, I mean, what would you ask people to do? You were asking them to support the library, and that's how you support the library.
Okay.
So, yeah, we
MC
wouldn't go
Gibb is
into it.
seasonal, isn't it?
Mhm.
So
But it's
instead
our
of saying,
biggest-
hey, oh, how about donate today?
Well, that's
Yeah.
where we cross the line into what the Friends of Foundation's lane is.
Oh,
So we're trying to stay away from.
I didn't go into these VR cards. Okay. I did run this by my librarian
I
about,
think-
and he didn't know what some of these things were.
Well, and that's where.
And do we have a little glossary somewhere? I mean, not on this form, but if you're going out and saying, oh, we have this and we have this and we have this.
Well, and that's
but
where
we're
we need
not
to know
sure.
who the audience is for this piece.
Yeah,
Because if it's you, you do know this. If you're handing that to somebody who is a casual user of the library,
Yeah.
they don't know these things. So we have to know who we're writing this for in order to make it self-explanatory.
Okay,
So is that,
I think, yeah, you guys did a good job, really.
It keeps
Really, it
evolving.
took a lot of work and.
A lot of evolving.
and it was well done.
Yeah.
It'll be good when it's done.
We'll take it up.
yes. Okay.
It's a stake.
I'll take it. I brought that because we tend to fall apart. I don't think we'd all talk at once.
Well, and I think a guide to advocacy for whoever is a presenter or speaker will necessarily be longer and maybe in more detail than something covering similar topics that we would hand to the public or pass out at a talk. Because, I mean, no student I've ever had wrote down every word I said. So my notes, whether they're in my brain or on the PowerPoint or wherever, are much longer than what the students take home with them.
Well, and by the same token, we had,
Yeah.
when Janie and I worked on this for
Uh-huh.
the first pass,
Uh-huh.
we had said we would have a shortened version that
Yeah.
would be a bookmark
Yeah,
that goes to everybody.
So my sense is that everybody who would speak from their heart and talk about their own self. I'm a teenager and I go to the library, but when they want to drop the facts, what we need, everybody should be on the same page. So
Have the same
who
resource.
speaks will have a different context and a different approach and a different set of values that they want, but we're all speaking with the same voice.
Well, and
I
maybe-
think that was the idea, to get the story straight. So that
Right.
people aren't saying things that
Mhm.
contradict each other.
And it-
Given this bare bones set of facts, then they can
Yeah.
wax eloquent about their
Right.
own personal situation
Yeah, they
when
can-
they go to advocate.
Pull in the,
And maybe as we're looking at it, that is something you do is when you're deciding who the audience is or who the speaker is,
Exactly.
imagine yourself as that speaker. Would a teenager,
Yes.
Bother
You
saying-
pick out the pieces that
Right.
you want to talk about.
Right.
but
would it work for this
At least
broad?
you know what you're talking about.
but I think Marcia's point is really good that, like say a teen who's enjoyed and profited from coming to the library, even with the same facts in front of them as I have, will
Say something.
say it from a different frame of reference.
Right.
And I think that's good for all ages to hear,
Mhm.
that the library is here in different ways for different age groups, for different, in everything, you know. But there are some things that might be misleading, and those are the kinds of things I think you wanna hear about more than anything else.
Okay,
So to be
Good.
continued.
to be continued. All right, is there anything?
Oh, there was some
Well,
question in the agenda about, do we think the advocacy committee should be disbanded? For some.
Oh, that's been in every
Yeah, so the answer is
agenda.
no,
Okay.
from my vote.
Okay,
anyhow.
good. All right, well, then now we would move on to trustee comments. Does anybody have anything they'd like to share?
I'll pass.
Well, I'm sure this took a lot of time and it's worthwhile. That's my comment.
Thank you, good. Well, and it's a work in progress. So anybody else? Okay.
Do we have
then,
any results from the chocolate and wine yet?
It is not official because there's still a couple of auction items that
Oh.
have been picked up and there will be online auction
Uh-huh.
in the future. So there's a little wishy-washy, but it's a little over 20,000 that was raised.
Net.
Yeah, that's, and that is down from last year and
Yeah,
it is
but-
because we had to spend some money. So, but nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah.
And a good time had by all.
That's true.
All right, any director comment?
Yeah, so just we have working on a donor letter with Friends and Foundation right now. I'd like to get that out next week because it's National Library Giving Day, and we also have National Library Week in April. So we're hoping to get a letter out to donors in April out there, and I'd also was talking with Chair Delormier as well about putting that also, I think, having the Friends duplicate the donor letter as a physical letter, but then also send it out as a digital, like as an email too, because they need to get those out. We need to get that info out to the group as well. So we'll be working.
And doing that, then they have a link to, they can give right then and there.
Exactly.
They're already on their laptop.
And all that stuff. So
You know specifically the date for National Library Giving Day?
April 1st.
Oh, it is April first.
Yeah, April Fool's Day.
Mhm.
And
Okay,
yeah, so we're
and is it that week then that is the week of library support or whatever you call it?
Week.
Well,
It's
the
mid-
National Library Week, I believe is the week of is that the week of the 19th, I believe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the week of the 19th, so we have
Okay.
some time on there also, so we're hoping to get the letter kind of completed around that.
And the event you were talking about is at the end of April.
Yeah, and we're hosting, and I was planning on doing like a talk towards the end of April, maybe April 26th, I think it is, to do a talk. And I've done the talk a couple of places, but I figure just to do a talk, have wine, snacks, and then have come over here would be ideal. So if we did that, that would be,
For who would be the audience?
well, I would basically do a talk and we give it to our donors. So
Oh, I'm
send
sorry.
it
So
to,
you just invite all the donors.
invite all the donors private first. I think there's the way to do that is, and highlight through like Friends of Foundation through that donor, you know, the letter and everything like that. Attend a program, try to get some people. If not, then we can post it wider.
What about
26th.
having our board meeting that Thursday in that week?
They say a date.
In the community room and invite all the dozens of donors you're talking
Okay.
about to the board meeting.
26th of April.
What, I don't know what's on the board agenda yet, so I don't know what.
Well, I'm wondering, would that be, I mean, the whole world is invited in theory,
Mhm.
but we know how unoften anybody ever signs in. But if we make that a focal event for the supporters to come to, I was just thinking that might be a way of linking them and us and inside the library and the whole thing like that.
So the 26th is a Sunday.
26th of Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
But that Thursday is
yeah, Thursday is
of the week, right?
Thursday of the week is the board meeting.
Yes.
Well, and I, to back up to, back to trustee comments, I did mean to say that I wanted to send a letter, welcoming our new city manager and invite him to come join a meeting. That's a little different than this, but he'll be starting around then, right?
Yeah, is he May 1st?
April 6th.
Oh, it's April, okay.
And then we have our staff day coming next Friday.
That's, yeah.
And then we are going to be off-site. We're going to
That's a
be,
week from tomorrow?
Week from
With the
now.
volunteers and-
Yeah. so that,
Thanks, Sarah.
we're gonna be over at Oscars and over at the
Right.
Pacific Biological Laboratories in Cannery
That's the
Row.
volunteer, so, yeah. So, yeah, volunteer appreciation is gonna be happening, April 19th, that's a Sunday. Oh, yeah.
So the library will be closed on that day, of course.
Well, we're already closed on Sunday.
Oh,
That's why we do it
I
on Sunday.
didn't realize it on Sunday.
That's okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, but that's kind of kicking off that National Library Week.
Yeah,
But yeah, staff day is happening next Friday, so it'll be good for us to have a day off to each other. A day away from the library, but with each other.
but the volunteer appreciation event, as usual, is gonna be in the community room.
Yes, I mean, it'll be here in the library, so we'll most likely we'll kind of set up outside.
Oh, in the patio,
No, outside, sorry, in the main
Youth
floor,
area.
the main area of the library.
kind of like a mini chocolate and wine.
Yeah. It's nicer out there.
You want
Once-
to get on the fountain?
Thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you.
Okay, then if nobody has anything else, we will adjourn this meeting at 5:23.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
All
you.
right.